It's good being home, Will. I like it. It's an interesting transition. Not only just going from having to be on sort of TV every day, so I don't like shaving all the time, but I have to shave every day and do my hair
Keep
and
yourself
stuff.
camera ready.
Camera ready. But I've been back a week now, and not only just back, but back in the Northern Rivers, and I'd forgotten that. Like, I still in the mindset of not just doing Getaway, but having traveled around Europe before that, wearing what I was wearing. Oh well, I should go out and look presentable. But then I forgot that up here, it's like everything's presentable, man. Like I literally had to go to the shops just before we started recording. And I was getting dressed and Jim's like, what are you doing? Just go in your pajamas. It's fine.
You'll be overdressed for the local shops in your PJs.
Take your shoes off to walk into the supermarket.
What are you doing going out dressed? What, are you going to some sort of ball?
Oh, look at it. Oh, Prince Charming here. Wait for Cinderella. There's your glass slipper, your majesty.
Didn't realise you were going for a meeting with the royal family, sir.
Oh, it's the best. I'd forgotten. You actually put me onto this. The idea that, because we talked about pajamas once upon a time, and you're like, hey, man, like whatever I'm wearing, that's my pajamas. And I'm like, So I started doing that. Like I'll just roll into bed and roll out of bed in the same clothes. It's like, well, I'll save myself like 5
cut out the
minutes
middleman.
Something
I learned from the good people at Movement Sunglasses and Watches. I said, you know what the trouble is? It's that bloody middleman. And pajamas are the middleman of clothing. And I just went, you know what? I'm just going to cut it out. I'm just going to wear the same thing during the day as I wear at night.
It's the best. It's so good. And because you're right, like predominantly the clothes I wear are comfortable clothes. So I can sleep in them. Like what I get about in the day, and especially now that it's been warmer and stuff, t-shirt and shorts. That's good. Sort of like my thing about pajamas is, what if there's a knock at the door in the middle of the night and I have to get up? Do I want to be presentable in that situation? Like presumably there's a fire or a madman loose in the neighborhood or something like that.
And they've knocked.
Yeah. No, the madman hasn't knocked. My neighbors have knocked.
That's very nice.
Madman loose.
Well, that's very nice that your neighbours, in the midst of a madman being loose in the neighbourhood, have taken the time to go around the neighbours and knock and say, hey, excuse me, just so you know, there's a madman on the loose.
How would you let your neighbours know there's a madman on the loose?
I would not.
You lock the doors. There's a madman on the loose. Haven't you heard?
Not going out in public door to door when there's a madman on the loose. But firstly, that's the perfect way to make yourself susceptible to the madman. But secondly, you might also be mistaken for the madman by someone a neighbours who already heard that there's a madman on the loose and is behind their front door with a shotgun. Yeah. And then suddenly you roll up to their front steps, knock, 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 couple of bullets through the chest.
Are we getting more of an insight into your neighbours rather than compassionate community strategy? If I heard a knock, if I knew there was a madman on the loose and I heard a knock,
you'd assume it wasn't the madman.
No, but you're
I
right.
wouldn't open the door.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you're heightened as well. If there's a madman on the loose, right, and you've heard, like, say someone's called you. They haven't come around and knocked on your door. I think that would be my first step. I'd be calling people from the safety of my house rather than going, you know what I should do? Get outside. On foot, and then start going door to door, knocking on people's doors. Because I'm not up for that at the best of times.
And you're like, I want to protect myself in case I see this madman, so I'll put on this hockey mask. And I might need some protection, so I'll get this butcher's knife, and I'll go around and I'll alert my neighbours
that there's a madman on the loose, just so that they're not worried.
We got shot. Some reason he's wearing a hockey mask.
I'll fashion a glove out of knives. Just in case I run into the madman.
This warm, stripy top. And my father's fedora.
Anyway,
seems appropriate in this instance.
I'll just grab this Halloween ghost mask that I have hanging near the front door, and I'll put that on for protection from the madman that is on the loose. So there's a madman on the loose. You've been rung by the neighbours to say, hey, lock the doors, stay inside. There's a madman on the loose. Because that would be the advice I'd be giving people. It wouldn't be, could you also go door to door, knock on other people's door.
And make sure you wear a hockey mask for protection.
Exactly. Here's a spare hockey mask that I had that you can take with you. And here's this, you know what? I had this beanie and this stripy shirt just hanging around if you want that, So you've rung them, and then if I've heard there's a madman on the loose and then there's a knock at the door, my immediate suspicion is that it's the madman.
Yeah,
or
that's true.
Yeah, right.
I guess because in when you live sort of semi-rurally, people don't tend to, only strangers knock because your neighbors know you. They'll call out, you, woo, woo, hello. Something like that. You know what I'm talking about. Or they'll open. They feel emboldened to just walk in. That's the one thing that's actually taken some adjustment up here is like Jem's still very much in that mindset of locking the doors. And I'm like, have you noticed that no one locks their doors here? Like every time we've gone around to a friend's place, they're not home. They're just like, oh, let yourself in or just drop it off or whatever. No one locks doors. But Jem's still much like, no, we have to lock the doors up here. I'm like, from who? Like no one's stealing from each other. It's a very small town.
I know, but there is something about, like, I'm not fond of the drop-in, right? Like, I just want a warning that somebody's coming around. And I notice in the country, in particular, people just are happy enough to just, like,
walk up to your front door and peer in through the window.
It's like, you don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know.
Like, and the thing is, it's not like I'm doing anything that, like, you know, it's not like I'm doing, like, having wild orgies or, like, doing something that's, like, illegal or anything like that. It's just the normal stuff I do. I don't want people to see.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's the embarrassing stuff. Is that what is actually how you live your life?
Right. Yeah. I don't want people to see how I actually live my life. That's the shame that I want to hide from the public. No, I just don't like, I like to be warned when I'm going to have a visitor of any kind, I think.
To see the full video, join our Patreon.
Patreon.com/Tofop.